Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us some of the most prolific leaders and trendsetters who had one thing in common. They started off with reimagination and by rethinking their awareness, who are all set to take the leap and guide us with their expertise and their valuable insights. It's time to invite our robust panelists for influencing and inspiring all of us. Please help me welcome very firstly Mr. Milind Mungale, EVP and CISO, Protean E-Government Technologies Limited. Welcoming you, sir. We have with us Mr. Rajesh Dalal, Vice President IT and Infrastructure, Make My Trip. Very warm welcome. We are very privileged to have with us Mr. Ambarish Singh, Chief Information Security Officer, Godrej and Boyce. Very warm welcome. Our next speaker is Mr. Pawan Chawla, Chief Information Security Officer, CISO and Data Protection Officer, DPO, Future Generali India Life Insurance. And finally, we would like to invite our moderator for today, Mr. Sundareshwar K, Partner Risk Consulting Cybersecurity, PwC India. Thank you once again for joining us and gracing this occasion with your valuable time. We are looking forward to soak and imbibe the e-learnings, and I'll be urging our moderator to please kindly take it from here.
Sure. Thanks, Prajakta, and good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for having us here, ET Edge. I'm truly excited to be a part of this panel. You heard Prajakta talk about who's on the panel. I just want to say that all of them are practitioners. They come from different industries, so we will have differential point of views. And they've been in this business for extensive amount of time. And I'm very deeply humbled to be moderating this panel. Without much further ado, I'd probably get into the discussions and deliberations. The topic for today is cybersecurity in digital transformation, something that one has been pondering upon for the last couple of years, largely due to the pandemic accelerating digital transformation programs. And this is really something which is being discussed at CEO and boardroom level. Because digital transformation programs in organizations really have really no scope for failure. And one of the aspects to make sure that the program is successful and is risk free or reduced risk is around making sure that cybersecurity controls are put in place. And the strategies for cybersecurity controls are also well thought through from a futuristic standpoint. Right, so that's really what we're going to discuss today. So I'll quickly start, and we can have the panel members come in as I call them out to share their views. The whole panel is for about 45 minutes. So if you can keep your responses to about 3 or 4 minutes, that'll really help so that we can discuss a multitude of things. So Ambarish, maybe I'll start with you. We've all heard about cybersecurity being important for digital transformation, and everyone talks about having a particular area or a subject of cybersecurity in a large digital transformation program. But how do you really communicate the value of this, right, in crisp business language to a CEO or a board? And what would you really tell them in terms of why it is really necessary?
Sure. Thanks, Sundareshwar, for asking this great question. So, as you rightly said, digital transformation is no-brainer today. And traditionally, a bunch of the organizations, some of the organizations were thinking about what is digital transformation is all about. Okay, for some organizations, digitization is the digital transformation. Some of the organizations, they know what is the power of latest technologies, which has changed the entire business models of various organizations. Okay, they looked at today. If we talk about traditional organizations like mine, right? They were into the manufacturing and they have their own ecosystem to ship their products by their traditional channels, right? A dealership, etc. Now, in the last 10 years or 15 years, we see new age of companies like e-commerce, Swiggy, Zomato, Protean, they all are not existing 10 years, 15 years before. What they did, they leveraged the new technology like cloud, okay, IoT, CIoT, etc. Okay, that is where today's company they are looking at here is the opportunity. One is from the business perspective. They are looking at what is the growth opportunity I have to leverage this technology. Now, what this digital transformation means to the organization is different for the every organization. Okay. If we talk about digital transformation, organizations are looking at cloud, looking at AI, ML, how to do data analytics, because they have got huge amount of data, but they're not able to take juice out of it. They're not able to use the data what they have to further leverage, increase their growth, increase their revenue, etc. Okay. Now, once you are embarking on the digital transformation journey, cybersecurity becomes the basic hygiene, basic elements. Okay. If you talk about cybersecurity, talk about data analytics, etc., there are basic elements of. Okay. Then when we are talking about a company has already decided based on various criteria, various advantages they see, the various business opportunity they see. They understand that once I am going to the digital world, I need to ensure that my data is protected. A bunch of things comes into play. Like if your data is protected, your brand reputation, etc., are intact. So as your trust of the employees, because today business is dependent upon the trust of the employees, right? Sorry, not employees, the customers. Okay. So once the company has decided this, you bring the element of cybersecurity, how to protect it, because you are going to embark on the new journey. What are the new challenges you are going to be exposed to? That is very important to let them know. Once you are letting them know, these are the probably new exposure factors will come on your way when you are embarking on digital journey. What are the remedies we have? That is more important to tell them this is the problem area, the cybersecurity challenges we are going to face because other organizations have faced. This is what the industry is doing it. This is what the current posture of cybersecurity in the industry and as a whole, what is happening in the cybersecurity world. And then you tell them what are the problem solves you have to tackle this over a period of time. Because traditional organizations probably they have been reluctant for some time to spend money on cybersecurity. However, once they embark on the digital transformation journey, they realize that this is an important area to invest in. And that is how you probably start, they start believing in you that what you are saying makes sense. And then you start getting embarked onto that cybersecurity journey. And as you know, all colleagues also understand, every organization at different stage of their cybersecurity depend upon what is the maturity level you have carved out for your organization, where are you, what is your business of the business, etc. Right? So here are the initial thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Ambarish. I think good initial thoughts in terms of saying that let's show some real risks and real use cases to be able to communicate the message of how cybersecurity will really add value to the business in a large transformation program. Right, Milind, same question. Can I just really get your thoughts, especially in terms of the citizen services that you actually provide, to the financial sector?
So primarily, whatever Ambarish says, I definitely resonate with it. But in addition to that, what I would like to say is that one of the most important aspects when it comes to talking about digital transformation is to be able to use those services responsibly. But it's not like you can leave it to one organization or one institution or one government to protect your data while you as a user of the data will become irresponsible in using it. It's very important that the physical paper-based information can be locked in key. Would you leave that key outside your door? You would never do that. So when it comes to talking about digital information, there too, it is very important that people understand their responsibility while using these services, while submitting the data. The second most important thing is the awareness part. Like, you don't have to be taught to be waiting when the signal is red and going when the signal is green. By observation, we learn that. But when it comes to talking about using digitally transformed services or digital transformation as a process, it becomes necessary that the basic awareness has to be imbibed, observed, and some attempts to learn it should be undertaken. If we look from the government point of view, massive digital transformation processes are underway, and it is practically impossible to be able to educate each and every citizen of the country. But when we comes to the data, everyone's data is lying in one single repository. And that's the reason why anyone behaving irresponsibly or compromising, it would be possible that the entire data can come onto the jeopardy. So that's something which is very, very important when it comes to talking about this. And it is necessary that these kind of things have to start beforehand, even when the plans of digital transformation for any organization or any entity starts, as to who are the people who are going to use it, what is the kind of a data, what category of data it is, and whether that data can pose any harm to the individual, to the group of individuals, to the entity who is primarily hosting, rendering, and processing that data, or to the entire country at large. So that's what is very, very important when it comes to talking about digital transformation. And we keep on talking about building in security by design. I think bringing in security awareness from design is also very, very important.
Sure. Thanks, Milind, for your views on this. Just moving on from here, when we talk about digital transformation, most of the time, the next word that we usually use is around cloud, right? Single cloud environment, multi-cloud environment, and so on and so forth. So Rajesh, if I can ask you, give us some best practices of what it takes to build a good security architecture in a multi-cloud environment.
Thanks, Sundareshwar. See, if the organization journey is towards moving to a cloud, right, a single or a multi-cloud deployment could differ from an organization to organization. However, the foundation step for any organization to embark the cloud journey is how you design your cloud environment, right? And security has to be a layered security. The way one should always plan is there is an external interface, which is your perimeter. You have to have security and controls over there. Then is your network layer. You got to add another layer of defense. Then is your application layer, which is where most security checks and balances have to be in place, because application can make your entire perimeter and network controls vulnerable, right? Because today the cyber attacks are no more the DDoS attacks or maybe denial of service attack. It's more towards exfiltrating of data. With organizations moving to cloud and having abundant storage requirements, every business wants to store the data onto the cloud, right? Use it for their business cases, whether it's business analytics, to serve their customers better. Like if you lack controls at the application layer, that's where the most danger sits. You can have an excellent perimeter and an excellent network control layer, right? But that will only give you some kind of an assurance that your environment is protected. But if your application is vulnerable, left open for vulnerabilities, right, it's a big disaster. So any move to the cloud, the security has to be in mind at each layer, whether it's at the perimeter, network, application, or the user access controls, right? So there are two types of threats which would exist in cloud. One is an external threat, and the other is your own internal employees accessing your cloud applications, right? Like today, a lot of digital companies like McMatap or Swiggy or Zomato would have a lot of customer data present with them. Now, that customer data is equally important, and you got to secure it from external community as well as internal community. You have to have controls in place, whether it is controls on the endpoints or on the applications wherein data is present. Now, a single cloud or multi-cloud, the security implementations would remain same, right, in terms of your basic controls. So that's up to the organization. No changes would happen whether you go for a single cloud or a multi-cloud or even an on-premise data center. As long as your application or data is getting exposed on the www, you got to have controls, similar controls. Thanks.
Thanks, Rajesh. So I'll just go one step ahead. We secure the perimeter, we secure the application, but really what we're trying to protect is customer data and our employee data. So Pawan, as a large insurer, in terms of how do you really see this whole impending data protection law, or framework that's really going to come into the country? How do you see that changing some of the work that we're doing in terms of protecting consumer data, and how do we make that entire law real?
Sundareshwar, that would be a wait and watch situation. I mean, we are living in, and I would put it in that way itself. The reason being, the bill is not yet finalized. There are changes which are being suggested in it. There was iteration which came in 2020, which suggested some 81 changes and some new clauses to be added. And after that, the new iteration is yet to come. Last I read that it is again getting revisited, and things need to evolve before it reaches us like an insurance company or any other company to follow. Now, as we know that the data protection bill is very much similar to in whatever state GDPR, and there are new things which have been added. They are customized it according to the Indian needs and Indian organizations. Data itself plays a very important role, irrespective whether the bill comes in motion or not. The data privacy and security needs to be highlighted and taken care by any organization dealing with public data. Now, there are two aspects to look at it. One, yes, organizations are responsible for securing the data, but it is again individuals' responsibility to hand it over the data in a very effective manner so that it should not be misused, and they should only be revealing the data which is needed. Now, I'll give you a classic example. I was recently, I went to an hospital and had to admit a relative there. And because I was the attendant, the hospital asked me to give the Aadhaar number. I said, but why you need an Aadhaar number of attendant? They said, no, because it is there it is mentioned in the form, you have to give us that. I said, but that is not mandatory by the government that attendant has to give the Aadhaar number. And I had to fight for it before and for not revealing the Aadhaar number of an attendant. But that's how the system has been built so far. People have been asking for data. People have been collecting data, but they don't know what to do with that particular data. Now, somebody has to look at it whether these data are necessarily needed or not needed. And when organizations are collecting it, it becomes organization responsibility to secure it as well. The other example I can give you is of schools. Everybody has children in school. We give a lot of data to schools. What are they doing with that data? There are physical copies which are getting submitted. There are online forms which have been filled. Digitization has changed over a period of time, especially after COVID came into the picture, right? We in our personal life and every organization in one form or the other have adopted digitization. One of the other application is digitized today, where customers are getting catered, and you are being catered by other companies as well. Like Rajesh has given a classic example of Swiggy, Zomato. Similarly, we as an insurer also collect a lot of data. It becomes our responsibility to secure it. Now, how we secure it and what comfort we can give to the customer is at utmost importance. And specifically for organization, it becomes equally relevant to ensure the data which has been collected have been secured in a way that it should not be handed over to people who does not need to have that kind of an information. Now, I gave you an example of hospital, which I recently visited and asking for that information. Does the receptionist need to know the Aadhaar number of the customer? No, they do not. But still they were asking for it. What if they make a copy of it and use it somewhere else? Aadhaar itself has been called as a confidential information by the government itself and should not be sharing. We should not, as an individual, should not be sharing it. And wherever it is required, we should contest that as well. And similarly, now I come to the organization, and we talked about individually. When it comes to the data, when we are collecting it, like I mentioned, that it is our responsibility to secure it and give access to people who actually needs that particular data. How many copies have been created of it? And that's one of the biggest challenge which every organization must be facing, whether the data which has been collected, because like an insurer, we also collect a lot of data. It is collected at a branch. It is there at the agent. with the agent, with the broker, with the reinsurer, and when it gets transmitted, a lot of data gets shared with the verification company as well, where the data has been, where they go on case-to-case basis. Now, it is our responsibility to ensure that we give them guidelines that how to access the data and how to use the data in a particular format. And after the usage is completed, how to destroy the data. That becomes a very important thing, because if that has not been taken care, you will always have instances where the data has been exposed over the internet and people will be there in the news. That would be my take for this particular question at this point of time.
Sure. Thanks, Pawan. Very interesting points, especially the one that you said that, check at the time of collection whether it's necessary or not. Right. I think that's a very interesting point. Milind, can I have your views on this as well?
Yeah, so thanks, Sundareshwar. In fact, I was to interrupt you because I wanted to add something to what Pawan has said. The primary thing we should remember that the data protection bill and in future data protection act that is going to be coming, what is it? It's not just to protect the data. All the organizations, including government and private sector, have been attempting their best to protect the data. No one was behaving irresponsibly when it comes to using the data or processing the data. But it also empowers an individual to be responsible for the data. Certain things like right to forget is something which is coming in the hands of an individual. And that's where it becomes necessary for the organizations to prepare themselves. Because traditionally, we have a habit of keeping the data at various places after collection. We take backups. We never look at what is the inventory of the backup we have. Every time we change the infrastructure, it is a practice to take an entire backup, and then the whole backup is secured for life, for years together, as if it is gold and silver. And we never ever have an habit of re-looking at where all the data is kept. For processing purpose, it is transferred to the endpoints of the employees. Sometimes for processing, it is transferred to the vendors. We have it main copy, disaster recovery copy, second copy, third copy, fourth copy, backup 2 years back, backup 5 years back. So the data of an individual is lying at so many places. Now, when it comes to talking about physical paper, no one cares. You go to take a PAN card photocopy, it doesn't come properly. You ask to give you a better copy. He takes one more copy, gives you a nice copy, you pay off and go away. You never bother to see what happens with your physical copy of PAN card, which actually is lying on his table because it was not printed properly. But when it comes to digital, it is not like that. It comes to digital, now you have an authority, you have a empowerment after the Data Protection Act comes in, that you can go and inquire where all your data is there. You can make a request for giving the entire logs of the data. You could even make a request to delete all your data because you don't want to be associated with it. Now, that's where the organizations have to be prepared to be having a proper inventory of where all the data is kept, how it is maintained. So many times if the data is in certain media, some old data is in some media, and if I go to that organization and say, I've been working with you, insurance company, for last 25 years, now that my insurance is matured, I want you to completely delete my data. If they have taken a backup on some old media 10 years back, there's no way how they can delete it because that media itself will not be readable. And from compliance point of view, there's no such provision to say that the media which is not readable is secure media. So I think these are very many nuances of when this Data Protection Act will come, and people will have to be ready for these things. All these things cannot be very clearly mentioned in the law. There will be interpretations, and then what is the right interpretation? There will be debate about it. And these all things are something which we all have to be prepared for.
Thank you, Milind, for your views. I'd like to move on from data protection into another area which is kind of very important for security practitioners, which we keep talking about, which is Security Operations Center. And we all know that Security Operations Center is essentially the eyes and ears for the security leader within the organization. Rajesh, if I could ask you, a lot of product vendors have threat intelligence feeds that power up the security operations center, right? And many a times we see that threat intel feeds provide intelligence which sometimes conflicts with each other as well. So, when you're running a security operations center as an analyst, right, how do you really look at those threat intel feeds and make it, actionable, right? What are some of the practices of being able to do that, and what, in your experience, has worked, and what really doesn't work? So, Rajesh, you can go at this, and maybe
Sure.
Ambarish, after that, the same question to you as well.
Sure. So, Sundareshwar, security threats or advisories keep on coming from all the OEMs, right, and the partners from time to time, right? And there is a lot of data network traffic which flows within your organization as well and within your network. So all of this cannot be looked into isolation. So you have to collect data from all the sources, correlate with your environment, right? And then figure out if this alert needs to be actioned upon or could be ignored, right? So multiple sources of data, whether all of that comes to your scene, you do a correlation, right? Then the SOC analyst will look at what's the impact of this threat, right? Some advices could be just be some patch upgrades and all, but I'm talking about the real time traffic which is coming, and based on the threats, you will have to take actions. So it's a combination of tools. No single tool can provide you an end-to-end security coverage. You have to rely on multiple sources, right, from the network to the application, right, and then doing a correlation of all your network traffic analysis, and then take a call on what needs to be done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rajesh. Ambarish, your views on this?
Sure. I think Rajesh brought out an important point. I'll just add, it is important when you start a security operations center, your processes are aligned. Okay. So initially, probably when you start the journey of the security operations center, you'll get a lot of clutter, a lot of noise. How are you defining those processes? Take an example, I just talked about, you get a latest threat. Okay. This has to be contextual to your organization. Suppose there are two types of SOC. One is in-house, one is outsource. Okay. Your job becomes a little better if you're outsourced SOC. It has their own pros and cons of each model. However, when we have a predefined processes and understanding with the partner, you ask him, probably there is a threat alert. Make it contextualized to me, my organization. How am I going to be impacted out of it? Like suppose Log4j came, right? There was a impact. This is so and so application which are built on this, and since particular organization has certain application built on this, so you need to do so and so things. So they are very pointed, contextual, actionable alerts you get, and then you assess whether that whatever the alert you have received, it is relevant to you or not, and if gets exploited, what is the impact to you? And then you prioritize this and get your ball rolling, because you have probably one of the IR. This is also an incident kind of thing, but it is probably a regular kind of thing. But Log4j was a higher one, right? Because it has impacted a bunch of applications. So you trigger based on whatever the processes you place in place, you trigger that particular process, and things start rolling in, and then you start monitoring it. The first piece. Second piece, it's all again depend upon how closely your team is integrated with the SOC. It means SOC team, how much they are aware about your own ecosystem. If you talk about managed services, it is important to have a regular connect with them. Let them know, okay, what you are looking for. Empower them. Let them feel that you're not a client. They are your extended team kind of thing, so that you interact very often, and thereafter you become they become part of a team. They understand you better. The more you understand each other better, the more the gelling will happen, and thereafter you get they feel that they are part of a team, and that is where a lot of conversation happens about the organization. Okay. Otherwise, it's just depends upon it's just a technical integration, nothing else, right? They never know who is probably security people in the particular organization for whom they are monitoring a SOC. Correct. If you have in-house SOC, things become that part little become better, but that it has got its own challenges. Yeah, these are my initial thoughts. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Ambarish. And, just staying with you and moving on, and this is something that perhaps you'll be able to address the best. We are all talking about IoT security. And, there's a lot of debate and discussion in terms of knowledge and awareness on this topic, right? But across the industry, there's very little that's actually been done in terms of projects or in terms of, a large scale program or in terms of a regulation and stuff like that. So just demystify for us, what are some of the use cases that could really be there that could actually pose large scale cyber attacks using the IoT platforms?
Yeah, sure. So off the late, if we talk about all manufacturing and product companies, they've realized that there's a customer demand, right? There is a huge business opportunity there to leverage the IoT world. Okay, and that is where the IIoT and CIoT came into play. Okay, I will talk about. So initially, when they started it, probably as usual, probably if we talk about, I'll talk it very loosely, security afterthought. Okay, what Milind was talking about, we need to make sure that security by design, defense in depth, what Rajesh was talking about. Okay, but people started thinking about it, and when they realized that during this process of IIoT and CIoT, if you're in cloud or wherever it is, you are going to collect a lot of information. Okay, like so take example of you have a lot of smart cameras, right? They collect, they're recording your you put it into your house, they're recording or what is happening in your house. Okay, this is sensitive information. How to protect that? Somebody gets hold of your recording, there could be a lot of private information will get leaked automatically. First thing, one is what is the data being consumed? Second thing, have you ensured that the security by design, defense in depth from the day one of the conceptualization of the project? Probably industry were not doing it, most of the companies. Okay, of the they realize it, they need to look at the security from design itself, from day one of the concept of a particular product. That is where we see we talk about security catching up. Okay, so probably a lot of products are in various stages, and as CISO you want to ensure that that product which is going live, it is secure enough. Okay, so probably as a CISO we need to look at if there is a CIoT product, IoT product, we need to ensure that security from chip to cloud. It means there is a firmware based on which the particular product has been designed, which is providing interface to your Wi-Fi, providing interface to your mobile application, etc. That one is the firmware, how secure it is. There are a lot of guidelines, a lot of controls that come into the market, by which you can ensure that that particular product firmware is tested thoroughly. Second thing comes the connectivity part, how this particular firmware is going to connect to your Wi-Fi. Okay, how secure it is. Then third thing is the mobile app, because for the ease of convenience of the customer, mobile app is probably the given, right? It's a mandatory. So the people want to see everything on the fingertips. Fourth thing is the website, and fifth thing is the cloud infrastructure or backend infrastructure. How you are ensuring that that particular piece is secure. Okay, and in this case, major challenge is how to provide the upgrade over the air. That's OTA. Okay, so that your firmware gets upgraded without any hassle from the user side. If you ask the user to upgrade certain things, he had to do a bunch of redo so many things. Probably this will fail. People want very seamless. The upgrade and update should happen over the air. Customers should do a minimum, but they should not do anything. Just you tap on, please upgrade or update. That's all. So, looking at the holistically, defense in depth, security by design, and we need to ensure that we have the bunch of security guidelines very crisply designed for your organization. You're taking juice out of the various standards we have in this field. Probably there are a bunch of standards have come out over a period of time, but I think you need to look at what is relevant to you. Okay, you might be designing certain product, probably that there's a lot of guidelines may not be relevant. So you need to pick up those critical points, have a security guideline defined for your firmware and IoT product, and ensure that security testing done from chip to cloud before you go live, and ensure that critical parameters are being monitored from the SOC itself. And then probably you'll get the confidence. And because in this space, customers are worried about their data. The moment a lot of interface is happening, people are worried about, and that is where probably a lot of players are playing with your data is secure because we have the best in class security posture, etc. They are marketing it like it. Okay. So that's what are my thoughts.
Sure. Thanks, Ambarish. I just have one last question, which I'd like to get all your thoughts. We have talent in our audience who's looking at all of you to understand how they need to reskill themselves in this so-called new age to become sharper cybersecurity professionals. So what would your advice be to them? Pawan, maybe we start with you and then we go around the table.
So there are many courses which are available for cybersecurity and learning cybersecurity. But my honest suggestion would be open, explore all the technologies, because cybersecurity does not have a boundary. It is evolving every day, and it will keep on evolving as we move ahead, because there are new technologies which are coming in. Though if you are only looking for a certification, you can get yourself enrolled in any kind of certification program and get the certificate. But the actual and the practical knowledge will only come when you start exploring and playing around with the products, and then only you will know that what all bugs do they have and what can be exploited, which needs to be protected by an organization. And that is what is a need of the hour for any organization. The more you explore, the more you get, more learning you will get, and more you will be able to help any organization out in securing the environment.
Sure. Thank you, Milind.
So primarily, it's a very, very interesting question, and nice that it has come in the concluding part of the discussion. First and foremost thing, we should know that it is practically impossible to imbibe the entire cybersecurity knowledge in anyone. Even after practicing it for so many years, none of us can never claim that we are cybersecurity experts or we know everything of it, because the things are dynamic, they are continuously changing. Normally in reskilling, one of the most important thing that people leave aside is to be current with the happening, to be aware of what is happening. Most of the time, people look at reskilling only from the very restrictive view of what their job needs. Cybersecurity is much, much deeper than just doing your job. It requires, if you are passionate about it, if you are very, very interested in that particular thing, then obviously you will keep in touch with it. You are daily watching news, reading newspaper. No one asked you to be updated with what is happening around, but you do it. You do it because you want to be updated. So first and foremost thing in reskilling, most important thing is you should be having that want to be updated with what is happening in cybersecurity. The second thing is that at least look 2 steps ahead. I have seen many people not reading anything about cloud security about 3-4 years back, discarding it, saying that my organization doesn't have any plans for cloud. Why should I go there? I would rather prefer looking at the security of what my organization is having or what it is claiming to have as a roadmap. Today, almost all of those organizations are on cloud, and the people who miss the opportunity to learn the cloud security much before their organization undertook that journey and come out with a rising star within the organization, lost it as an opportunity to someone who was ready in cloud security and had to be onboarded. So it's very necessary to be able to also judge where the technology trend is going and try to get understanding of the security around that technology, regardless of whether your organization or your present job profile demands it or not. The question you ask yourself is how many people are really studying about AI, ML security or blockchain security. Most of the organizations have not onboarded the journey for AI, ML or blockchain in their business processes. how many of the younger CISOs or the mature CISOs are also reading about it, trying to learn about it? So that's what, will keep anyone updated or upskilled as far as security is concerned. That's what is my view.
Thanks, Milind. Rajesh, you want to add something to that?
So I think Milind and Pawan have covered almost what needs to be said. And it's very rightly said, security is a never-ending process, right? So while you can do certifications available in the market on the various products and the technologies, right? That doesn't mean that you become the master in the cybersecurity world. You got to learn every day, like Milind mentioned, you read your newspapers to stay updated. Similarly, please be aligned and to the various security advisories from which are coming from OEMs. Learn on the job, learn on the threats which you see on a day-to-day basis. So I think no one certification can help you cover cybersecurity.
Sure. Ambarish?
Yeah, so I think I'll add just what Rajesh, Milind, and Pawan has said. It's important to also to understand what is your attitude and aptitude. What Milind said, in cybersecurity, you've got a bunch of skills, right? GRC, application security, security engineering, cyber defense, data protection, etc. Okay, so you need to know where your mind works better. Go in depth into that. Look at the way the technology trends is going, and invest your time and energy to understand the technology and what is the security aspect of it. First thing. Second thing, as Milind said and as Pawan also said, be updated what is happening in the industry, where the trend is going, and make the security very simple. Don't make it complex. Okay, keep your concept very clear. Basics, if your basics are strong, probably you'll be able to do anything in cybersecurity, but your basic has to be very strong. Look at long term, don't look at short term. Okay, the other thing I can add what Pawan, Rajesh and Milind have said.
Sure. Thanks, Ambarish, and thank you, everyone, for this discussion. With your permission, I'd like to quickly summarize what we've discussed, for our audience. When we spoke about digital transformation and the value that cybersecurity would bring, and how we need to communicate that value, and discuss that I think the best way to really do it is to use a use case based approach, is to talk about globally and in India what other organizations are doing and what is the business risk that is associated, right? And that's really how we go back and communicate the value back to our boards and CEOs. And if we move ahead in terms of digital transformation, the first and the most important thing which comes is how do we leverage cloud? And as security professionals, I think we should know that controls at the application layer is most critical, whether it's a single cloud or a multi-cloud environment. And what we are essentially trying to protect, apart from the reputation of the organization and so on and so forth, is really around information around customers and our employees. While the impending data protection bill has to be watched out for, what we can really look at is the entire life cycle from the time the data is collected till the time the data is destroyed, to see why we need the data within our enterprise or within our third party network, and how do we put controls around making sure that that data is protected, anonymized, and whatever are the other controls that are there. We then moved on to discuss around security operations, and while we have a number of advisories and intelligence that keeps coming in, I think what is most important to kind of demystify all of this, it's a nice process framework, an incident response playbook, and training and awareness to our analysts. Right? I think that's really what was coming out in terms of discussions. And finally, we also spoke about what is the real threat that's associated with IoT security. I like the way Ambarish mentioned that it is security from chip to the cloud. So that kind of summarizes it for all of us. We can't conclude this discussion really by not talking about how we all build ourselves to be good cybersecurity professionals. And one thing that's actually coming out from all of you is there are a lot of stuff that can be read. There are a lot of stuff that you can go into depth. But if you're passionate and if you're curious, right, these two qualities will perhaps make you a good cybersecurity professional, because if you're passionate and curious, you will go behind the stuff that's relevant and reskill yourselves to be able to address that. So I think a very, very fantastic, discussion, and thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts. We could conclude the discussion now, and Prajakta, over to you.
Thank you so much for that incredible session and for sharing those anecdotes. We are truly once again humbled with each of your presence. Truly enriching. Thank you once again to our esteemed jury and our speakers and our wonderful moderator for adding so much of value with your presence and enlightening each one of us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, moving forward with the summit, it is time now to throw some light and understand the reality of digital resurrection. And let's take a look at our next esteemed speaker.